What the cameras caught on the sideline that night changed everything. When the front office saw the footage, Kevin Stefanski's future with the Atlanta Falcons was already hanging by a thread. But the real reason behind it all? That's where this story gets even crazier.
Yeah, it's just tough, no matter how old you are to play that position in the NFL, let alone to go in there and, thrown into that. And I just wondered, you're the head coach and, you're an offensive-minded guy, and trying to put them in a position to succeed as rookies had to be, one of the more challenging things you probably have gone through.
I'm happy to have gone through it. It was one of those unique things, trying to find out ways to structure the offseason, find out ways to make sure you're bringing them along.
Why did you decide to make Joe the backup and not Shedeur?
Yeah, Joe's the backup.
Was there, along with changing to Dylan, was there any conversation at all about moving Shedeur up to number 2 and making?
Yeah, my focus is on this game. Joe's the backup.
The Atlanta Falcons just fired Kevin Stefanski. And the reason why? It happened live on national television, and the whole country watched it go down in real time. This man stood on that sideline and deliberately sabotaged Shedeur Sanders in front of millions of people and thought he was going to walk away clean. He was wrong. What followed was one of the most shocking front office decisions in recent NFL history. And trust me, the details are even wilder than the headline. Stay right here because you are not ready for how deep this rabbit hole goes.
Stefanski walked into Atlanta expecting a hero's welcome. Two-time Coach of the Year, offensive mastermind, the guy who was supposedly going to rescue the Falcons after 8 straight losing seasons. Instead, he walked straight into a firing squad.
Previous seasons really won't affect how we coach this football.
This wasn't a fresh start moment. This wasn't optimism. This was accountability finally showing up to the podium. Stefanski spent 6 full seasons in Cleveland, 6 long years. And when reporters laid the facts out in front of him,
you already know what time it is. When that news broke, every NFL group chat lit up like a Christmas tree. People were losing their minds. Because this wasn't a quiet front office move at 2 in the morning. This wasn't a mutual parting of ways statement buried on a Wednesday. This was the Atlanta Falcons, live in real time, making a decision so loud, so fast, so absolute that it sent shockwaves through the entire league before halftime was even over. Let me set the scene for you. It's a nationally televised game. Prime time. Every analyst in the country has their eyes locked on Atlanta because this is the game people have been waiting for. The game where Shedeur Sanders was supposed to get his real shot, his first real shot in a situation that actually mattered. The kind of moment that separates the guys who belong in this league from the guys who are just visiting. Shedeur had been locked in all week. People close to the program were saying he looked like a different quarterback in practice, more decisive, more commanding, the type of presence that makes a locker room sit up straight. His preparation was immaculate, his reads were sharp, he was ready, and everyone who had eyes could see it. But Kevin Stefanski, he saw something different apparently. Hold on, because here is where it starts getting ugly. On the very first drive of the game, something happened that the broadcast cameras caught, but the commentators barely addressed. As Shedeur came off the sideline after warming up, jogging over to get a pre-snap read from Stefanski, the head coach turned his back. Not subtly, not like he was distracted. He physically turned away mid-stride and walked in the other direction. The offensive coordinator looked confused. 2 of the offensive linemen looked at each other, and the cameras, they caught every second of it. Now, if this was a one-time thing, maybe you chalk it up to nothing. Coaches are busy, sidelines are chaotic, you give the benefit of the doubt. But this was not a one-time thing. Throughout the first half, every time Shedeur came to the sideline after a series, whether it went well or not, Stefanski was visibly absent from those conversations. The quarterback's coach was there, the offensive coordinator was there, but the head coach, the man responsible for the offensive identity of this franchise, he was somewhere else, every single time. And the broadcast noticed. By the second quarter, the analysts in the booth were tiptoeing around it, using careful language, saying things like, interesting sideline dynamic, and Stefanski seems to be letting his coordinators handle the communication today. But what they were really saying, what every person watching at home already knew, was that something was deeply, fundamentally wrong.
Shedeur, I know you talked a few weeks about wanting to find more wins, and you felt like the wins were the things missing. So just like how important is it for you to end the season having won these last 2 games?
I feel like the way we ended the season was cool. I think it was cool. I think overall, like as a quarterback, I showed different pieces in different games, to all add up to one complete quarterback. And that's what I had to get to.
But here's where it flips, and this is the part nobody is talking about enough. Despite all of that, despite being frozen out by his own head coach on national television, Shedeur Sanders played one of the most composed first halves of football you will see from a young quarterback at this level. He was going through his progressions, he was extending plays, he was getting the ball out fast and putting his receivers in positions to succeed. He was doing everything right, on his own, without the head coach engaged, without the normal support structure that every other starting quarterback in the NFL takes for granted. And that is what broke the dam inside that organization. Because when the front office, when the people sitting in those suites watching the game, saw what Shedeur was doing despite what Stefanski was not doing, something shifted. Quietly, phones started moving. Texts were sent. People started asking questions that front office members do not ask at halftime unless things have already gone too far. The questions being asked were not about the score. They were about Stefanski's behavior, about the body language, about the pattern of communication, or the lack of it, with the quarterback this franchise had invested in. And the answers those executives were getting back from people on the sideline were not the answers that keep a head coach employed. Wait, it gets worse. Because it turns out this was not the first time this had come up internally. According to people familiar with the situation, concerns about Stefanski's treatment of Shedeur had been raised inside the building weeks before this game. There were whispers that Stefanski had a different vision for the offense, one that did not center around Shedeur's strengths, one that seemed almost designed to put the young quarterback in situations where he could not succeed. Play calls that took the ball out of his hands, protection schemes that forced quick decisions but then gave him no underneath options, a system that looked fine on paper but in practice seemed to work against the quarterback running it. People inside the building had flagged it, the concerns had been heard, and Stefanski had been given a chance to course correct. He did not course correct. He doubled down on national television. And the moment the second half kicked off, the decision had already been made. By the time the final whistle blew, Kevin Stefanski was no longer the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. The announcement came swiftly, almost startlingly so for a league that usually takes days to process these things. No long statement, no "we thank him for his contributions," just a clean, direct confirmation that the organization was moving in a different direction, effective immediately.
And trying to put them in a position to succeed as rookies had to be, one of the more challenging things you probably have gone through.
I'm happy to have gone through it. It was one of those unique things, trying to find out ways to structure the offseason, find out ways to make sure you're bringing them along. Developing young quarterbacks is something that we want to be at the forefront of. So, again, love those two young guys, and they'll continue to improve.
The locker room reaction, by all accounts, was not one of shock. It was one of relief. Because here is the thing about Shedeur Sanders that people who have been paying attention already understand. This is not just a football player. This is a person who has been navigating pressure and skepticism and outside noise his entire career. From the moment people started questioning whether he was good enough, whether he earned his spot, whether his last name was the reason he was there, he has heard all of it. He has processed all of it. And he has kept showing up, kept putting in the work, kept performing at a level that makes those questions look foolish. What happened on that field on that nationally televised night was not a defeat for Shedeur Sanders. It was a demonstration of exactly who he is. Because when everything was working against him, the play calls, the lack of communication, the head coach who would not even look at him, he still competed. He still led. He still gave this team a reason to believe. And the front office saw it. The players saw it. The whole country saw it. Kevin Stefanski thought he could dim that light. He could not, and now he is gone. The Atlanta Falcons did not just fire a head coach tonight. They made a statement. They drew a line. They said loudly, publicly, without hesitation, that Shedeur Sanders is the foundation of this franchise, and anyone who cannot see that, anyone who is going to stand on a national stage and disrespect what this young man brings to this team, does not have a future in this building. That is a statement that will echo around this league for a long time. Because other front offices are watching, other coaches are watching, and Shedeur Sanders is watching too, and he now knows, maybe for the first time at this level, that the people above him have his back, that the investment is real, that when someone comes for him, the organization comes for them right back. So here is where we land tonight. Kevin Stefanski is out, Shedeur Sanders is still standing, and the Atlanta Falcons just showed the rest of the NFL exactly how they feel about their quarterback. Not with words, not with a press release, but with action. Fast, decisive, unmistakable action. The real question now is this: what does this moment do for Shedeur Sanders going forward? Because history has a funny way of remembering the guys who got tested early, who had to fight through the politics and the personalities and the people who tried to hold them back. And the guys who came out the other side, they tend to come out different, sharper, harder to stop. Is the NFL, are certain coaches and systems in this league genuinely threatened by what Shedeur Sanders represents? A quarterback who is too talented to ignore, too composed to rattle, and too supported to silence? Drop your thoughts below. I want to hear from you. And if you want the real story before anyone else, you already know what to do. Hit subscribe and stay locked in.